Good morning. Welcome to the second day of judging of the 2019 AIPP Epson New South Wales ACT Professional Photography Awards. This morning's session is the landscape category, sponsored by Fuji. We have 5 judges ready to go here: David Stowe, Naran Zulu, Kate Buchner, John Armstrong, my apologies there, and Kelly Tunney. Thanks for that. As I said, we're judging the landscape category. I'll read you the category preamble. This category is intended for landscape images that depict the natural or urban environment. Entries may be literal or interpretive. Judges in this category are asked to consider both traditional and contemporary values, photographic technique, print quality, composition and light. The landscape category will be judged in 3 sections: landscape open, landscape single capture, and landscape aerial. The category is judged in 3 sections to assist the judges in their assessment. However, there is only one award. Entries in this category may be commissioned or self-commissioned. Photographs must depict or imply the natural or human urban environment. Diptychs, triptychs, etc. are permitted in all 3 sections. In landscape open, entrants may utilise all post-production techniques, including multiple images or elements, in producing their entry. In landscape single capture, this section is intended to reward technical and creative excellence in photography and presenting an authentic representation of a scene without the benefit of creative compositing techniques. In landscape aerial, entrants may utilise all post-production techniques, including multiple images or elements, in producing their entry. All aerial landscape images must be entered in this section for judging. Aerial images are considered to be taken from, but not limited to, the following: UAV or drones, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, hot air balloons. That's the end of the category preamble. We're judging landscape open initially, and this category today is sponsored by Fuji. Thanks to Fuji, great supporter of the AIPP. Any questions from the judging panel before we start? Thanks, judges. I think we'll get underway. Could we have the first print, please? Thanks, judges. Print scored 78. Comment from Noran, please.
A beautiful image, very good potential in here, but it's the sky is on the right-hand side of the sky, need to be toned down, and also I think this file is a little bit overworked and a bit too sharpened.
Okay, thanks for that. There's a couple of other judges nodding agreement there. We'll accept that score and we'll have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. The print has scored by majority a 79. The average was 80, but 3 judges had it below 80, so it is a majority 79. David, could you make a comment for the benefit of the photographer, please?
Love the shapes and the colours and textures. I think it's a fantastically seen image.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let's accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. This print is scored by majority an 80, so it goes both ways sometimes. The average score here. So 80 is our first silver for the day. The average score here was 79, but by majority 80. So congratulations to the photographer there. A comment from Kate, please.
I really enjoy this image. I just think the photographer could look at the post-processing a little bit. There's just a couple of things going on there that I think they should revisit.
Can you give me something specific? Can you give them something specific?
In the
please?
kangaroo, that was my main concern of just, I know that it's shot under difficult light conditions, not as controlled maybe as some things, but that was my one question around the kangaroo.
Okay, thanks for that. That's great. Could we have the next print, please? Noran, can you push your button harder or something like that? Thank you. That's great. Thanks for that. Thanks very much for that, judges. The print scores 79. Print scoring range of 77 to 82 there. Kelly, a comment from you, please, for the benefit of the photographer. Thanks.
Yeah, there's something quite quaint and really cosy about this image, and I enjoy the warmth coming through from the back of those trees. Yet it's in the snow, but I think it just needed a lift in its print quality. It's just a bit flat. Just lift that dynamic range probably would have helped. Maybe a bit better, more dynamic sort of paper stock too.
Great comments. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks. We'll have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Printer scored 75. John, could we have a comment from you, please? Something for the benefit of the photographer here.
Obviously, the railings underneath and the trees at either corner, but the elements in the centre of the image, I think, overlap too much to give a clear composition.
So thanks for those comments. Could we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. This print is scored by majority of 79. The average was 80, but once again, 3 judges had it scored in the 70, so it's a majority 79. Thank you, judges, for those scores. Can I have a comment from David, please? Something for the benefit of the photographer here.
Composition is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. The I'd probably suggest just toning down the saturation a bit. It's just a bit too gaudy.
Thanks, David. Okay, we'll accept that print with a score of 79, and next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print has scored 76. Okay, thank you. We have a challenge from John. You're sitting on 83. You're out there alone, but let's hear the challenge, please, John. Thank you.
Yeah, look, what I really appreciate about this image is just that it's a nicely refreshing take on the familiar astrophotography image, and I really like the way that the photographer has combined the long exposure astrophotography image with the light trails of the cars on the road, which give a nice sort of leading line into the astrophotography aspect of the sky. So I think it's just nicely seen and a nice twist on a familiar theme.
Thanks, John. Kate, you're sitting on 75. Your comment, please.
I enjoy that aspect of the astrophotography, but I'm confused as to, am I looking at the astro or am I looking at the road? And where am I? There is that leading line, but my mind is confused between what I'm actually looking at.
David, a comment from you, and then we'll go back to John to rescore, please.
Yeah, look, definitely solid professional practice, really well done technically. My point probably is that I don't think it's refreshingly new. It's sort of, that's probably my biggest thing. It's seen it done really well, but not a word worthy for me.
Thanks, David. John, can you give us a final summary, please, and then we'll rescore.
It still works. It still works for me. So I'm not. There's nothing I can disagree with about. It's refreshing enough for me to mark it in the award range.
Okay, thanks, John. That's great. Currently sits on 76 judges. If you could rescore, John, your score will stay at 83. Thank you, judges. We moved it up to 77. Thanks for that work there. Judges, could I just remind you about challenges? I'm not going to initiate them. You need to do it. I noticed that when I announced the score, you sat there looking at the print. When I've announced the score, could you look at your iPads, please, to see if there's a challenge on there? Then we can get that process going quickly. Thanks for that. So we'll accept that score of 77 and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print has scored 77. David, you've indicated you challenged this. You're sitting on 83, more than 5 points above the announced score. So I'll accept your challenge. And if you could talk to the print, that'd be great. Thanks.
The colours in this are fabulous. For me, this is something very different, and I really was struck by, I suppose, the juxtaposition of those sort of painted textures over a traditional sort of beach sunrise scene. I awarded the photographer for that creative sort of aspect.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, if you could make a comment, please. You've scored this at 74.
Yeah, well, I'm all for wanting to reward a photographer for trying something different. I just feel it's probably missed the mark with just because those objects that have been placed on top of the water, it's just a bit plonked there, and they are really heavy. I think the bottom half is just weighing that down as well, and just looking at that sort of where the sun's coming in, that hot spot off to the left, it's just sort of pedoing out to sort of nothing, and they've tried to sort of bring that back in, so it just doesn't have that balance. But you know, well done for being brave, but I just think it's missed the mark.
Thanks, Kelly. Any more comments before David sums up? Thanks, David. If you could make your final comments, and we'll rescore. Thank you.
Yeah, the bright highlight to the left, contrasting with, you know, travelling down through the print in that gradation of yellow through orange to dark, you know, earthy tones. That's what I actually really enjoyed about the image. So, yeah, fantastic.
Okay. Well, the judges, let's rescore. It sits on 77 at the moment. David, your score was 83 and stays there. Let's see how we go. Thanks, judges. It's come up a point at 78. Thanks very much for that. Could we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The print is scored by majority 79. The average was 80. Thanks, Kelly. You've scored, I'll accept your challenge. You've scored this at 85, 6 above the announced score. So let's hear what you've got to say. You've got another judge with you and then 3 other judges down in the 70s.
Okay, not much. This is just an interesting take on, from what you can see in the background, of a really stark sort of not particularly nice environment, and we have absolutely no human elements sort of in there, that you can't see anybody. It's just such an unrealistic kind of futuristic sort of environment, but these pops of colour, it's just like, okay, we're going to try and make this horrible, ghastly looking place colourful and inviting, but it's still so intriguing and cinematic almost. The level of, in terms of the technique used with just little pockets of brilliance in there, is really well handled. I love the print. I love that big object that's sort of space-like and grabbing my attention. It's sort of leading right up to that beautiful gradient in the background. It's an unusual take, and it's quite captivating. I'd like to see it. I mean, I scored at silver distinction, but silver would be nice.
Okay, well, let's see how we go. Kate, you scored it at silver at 83. Can you make a comment, please?
I love there's a futuristic feel to this. It's like there's no cars, there's nothing there, and then we've got this shape that's there and dominating, and I kind of look at it and think, is this the future? Is this a representation of what we're going to be in the future when we don't have cars? And that's what really intrigues me. The print quality is phenomenal. It's really, really well controlled, but it's that extra storytelling element that I think we should reward.
Okay, thanks for that. Gentlemen, could I have a comment from one of you, please? You've scored them in the 70s. Okay. Thanks, Niran.
Okay. Beautiful print, I agree, and I scored this one in silver. It's definitely professional standard. But again, when you travel, you see these sort of moments quite often. I can't see any connection between the bottom and the building up to, like a pearl of Shanghai in this instance. For taking a photo in the silver award, I need to have a bit more impact, and I can't see impact in here. And you know that the lines are actually leading out from the image on the side. There are 2 different photographs in here. Beautiful print, very nicely done, but the communication is not good enough for me. But I'm happy to listen.
Thanks, Niran. Kelly, let's see what you can do. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kate. There's something very futuristic and kind of scary almost about it, with this dominant sort of thing in the background. And I do see two images in there, but I think they work for the sort of what's happening behind that thing. It's just sort of bleakness and polluted and not particularly inviting. And then we have just this pops of colour, like I said before, that's sort of bringing us, sort of starting and leading us through. And I'm intrigued by that figure, and I think it does have a bit of a emotional sort of connotation to it. So, look, I think for visual communication, it's quite strong. So, I'd like a silver.
Thanks, Kelly. That's an aim there. Let's see how we go. Judges currently sits on a majority 79 score. Thank you, judges. Thanks for that work. It scores 82, a solid silver award. Great conversation there. Thanks very much. Can we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The printer scored 78. No, sorry. Jonathan, you had your hand up. Are you challenging this? Okay, thanks. Jonathan, you've scored this at 83. You're the only judge in the 80s. The other three are in the other four are in the high 70s. So I'll accept your challenge. And if you'd like to talk to the print, please, that would be great.
Yeah, this is a really striking image for me. From a distance, it grabbed my attention straight away, and I think that it really benefits from the monochromatic treatment. I will concede that I would like to have seen the darks lightened a little bit, because I think that they're too heavy, and I would like to have seen more detail in the blacks, which is why I didn't score it any higher than I did. But I really would like to reward the photographer for giving us a very stark and crisp, clean black and white image.
Thanks, Jonathan. Kate, you've scored this at 78.
I agree. When this turned around, it has an impact, but the ducks are what letting it down. I wonder, even for me, if it was a tighter crop. I love the central duck looking forward, and if it was cropped tighter, just drawing you straight down that line. It's definitely got potential, but it's just not quite there to take it to a silver for me.
Any other judges' comments before... David, yes, please, if you could make some comments. You're sitting on 77.
Yeah, look, agree with everything said. The couple of points for me that I think would lift it a lot, besides the blacks, would be the positioning of that centre coot. I think that bird, it's a bit tight in close to the reeds. If you can move that out or even take it out entirely, I think would actually be more balanced. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Jonathan, can you sum up, please, and then we can rescore?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see the effect of cropping a little bit tighter in, and I can see that it may be more balanced without that third duck in there. I still feel like it's worthy of a solid silver.
Okay, let's see how we go. Currently sits on 78. Jonathan, your score of 83 stays there. I'll ask the other judges to rescore, please. Thank you, judges. Score 79. So thanks for the discussion there. And at APPA, that would probably go to the second room to be reassessed. But not the case here. So thank you, judges. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print scores 83, a solid silver award. Print scoring range there from 82 to 84. Could I have a comment from Kate, please?
When this turnaround, there's really impact and gives you a spooky feeling. The reason that held me back from going higher is on that left-hand side, it's just too bright that I'm going there and being drawn out of the frame. I just feel like if that was just lightened down a little bit, it would have even more impact.
Thanks, Kate. Good comments there. Okay, let's accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print has scored 78. Thanks, Jonathan. You've challenged this. Your print score is 83, 5 above the announced score. You're working with another 80 and 3 in the mid-70s.
Yeah, I would like to challenge this. I think that the image had immediate impact, and I really wanted to very quickly look closer to make sense of what I was looking at. I think that it's a beautifully seen image. I think that the printing is really nicely done. The whites are perfectly controlled. There's just enough detail in the shadows in the lake to be able to make out some texture underneath. The little red shack in the left-hand middle is a nice little splash of colour, and I think that colour goes very nicely with the very weak sunlight that's just coming through the lower central section of the sky. So I think this is a really very poetic and nicely handled image. I think it deserves silver.
Thanks, Jonathan. David, you scored this at 76. A comment from you, please.
Absolutely solid professional practice. The big letdown for me, I think, was the sky and the handling of the darkening of the sky and that bright sort of glow through the middle. It just a little bit overdone. I think if you revisited that, it'd be great. And perhaps a little bit more space around the lower becket of the lake.
Thanks, David. Naran, you're sitting on 82.
And I have to agree with both comments made. But the thing is, if you look at this photograph and the sky treatment of skies actually adds to the image, and also every element works all right in here, and also is beautifully seen as been suggested. Only comment I can make that actually if shoot on print on different paper, there would have been a bit more impact, like a bit more luster paper. But all the elements are actually working quite well, and if you look at here and try to create all this composition, and like it's there is lots of impact in creating something like this, and I think it's worth a silver here.
Okay, look, thanks for that. Jonathan, can you make your final comments, please, and we'll
Yep.
rescore.
Yep, I agree with Nuran. I'm comfortable with the treatment of the sky. I like the yellow light coming through the middle, because I think that it gives it just the little bit of warmth that it needs, which is a nice contrast with the obviously very cold surroundings. And I think it's a very nicely seen image.
Terrific, thanks for that. Okay, judges, could we rescore, please? I'll just remind you the average score for this print is 78. The print is scored by majority 79. The average was 80. 3 judges still had it in the 70s, so it's a 79. Thanks for the comments there. Sorry? I forgot about those. Sorry. Okay, so this lucky photographer will find this in their print case. For scoring 79, they get a badge to indicate it. And I noticed that people are wearing it with pride around the judging this weekend. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, let's have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print has scored 79. The print scoring range there of 76 to 82. Kelly, I'd like a comment from you. That'd be great. You scored this at 76.
Yeah, interesting idea again, but the crunching of these blacks, and there's some weird cloning or something happening in those left-hand trees in the foreground there, especially off to the left. And just I think the green's probably just a little bit heavily done in its saturation or luminancy or something, and maybe even crop it up a little bit and give it a sorry, just a little bit of a boost in its blacks. I think would have probably helped it just give it a bit more dynamicness about it.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, we'll accept that score. And next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print scored 77. Okay, I'll accept that score. And Kelly, I'd like a comment from you. You're sitting on 77, the average there. Thank you.
The movement through this image is really quite lovely. I'm just a bit confused with what's happening with that sort of background in that left sort of figure-like. I just think that probably it's such a simple image. I think something like perhaps removing that, bring down the blues at the top, and maybe make the black in the right-hand corner more dominant, just to lift it, because it's got something quite cool about it. This needs a bit more love.
Okay, thanks for that. So, judges, can we just sit tight for the moment? That's the end of the open section. I'm just going to accept that score. I'll just see what comes up next. Just stay there for me. Okay, let's. I'll just go with this judging panel for the aerial section, which is next. Are you judges all happy with that? Thank you. It's relatively short, and then we'll make a major judging change when we get onto our final section. Thanks. Could we have the next print, please? My apologies. This is aerial, coming up now. Next print, please. That's great. Thanks very much. Thanks, judges. Printer scored 72. Could I have Jonathan, can you make a comment, please, on this one?
Just one concern about the image is that the highlights are blown out, unfortunately, in the top left corner in those foggy clouds. And I think that if that was handled better, then the print will do better. Get closer to a silver, maybe.
Okay, thanks very much for that. We'll accept that print score of 72. And next print, please, when you're ready. So just for the benefit of the judges and the audience, we're judging the landscape aerial section now. And the requirements here, or the comments here, are entrants may utilise all post-production techniques, including multiple images or elements, in producing their entry. All aerial landscape images must be entered in this section for judging. Aerial images are considered to have been taken from, but not limited to, the following: UAVs or drones, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, hot air balloons. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 83, a silver award. Can I have a comment from a judge who's willing? Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, the detail in this image is exquisite. I really like the, it looks from a distance like two different swathes of tweed material, and I think that they come together beautifully in the tones. And I love the diagonal line coming right through the division between the two sections from the top left corner to the bottom right. I think it's a beautiful image, nicely seen and nicely handled.
Thanks, Jonathan. The print scoring range there was 78 to 87. So I'll accept that score of 83, and next print, please. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 78. I'll accept that score. I have a comment from Nuran, please.
Nicely printed, beautiful image, but looking for somewhere to my eye to rest on. You know, like there is no place that actually I can start the image, and like definitely need an interest to focal point.
Okay, thanks for those comments. That's great. Let's have the next print, please. Just while the judges are looking at this print here, I'd just like to remind you that we're on the second day of the 2019 AIPP Epson New South Wales and ACT Professional Photography Awards. We're currently judging the aerial photography section in Rm2 in the landscape category. This category is sponsored by Fuji. Thank you, judges. The print has scored 83. Kate, you've scored this 88 and would like to challenge. I'll accept that challenge. There's an 87 in there, 82, 78, 79. So thanks for that.
When this image turns around, I initially kind of went, oh, it's interesting. And then all I can see now is a face staring at me the whole time. There's the eyes, the nose, and it's creepy, but it's really interesting and really drawing you into this image. I don't actually know what it is that it's photographed, but I don't care because it's a face. And to create a face from a landscape, it's creative, it's different, and I'd love to see the photographer rewarded for that.
Okay, thanks for that. Kelly scored this at 78, so a comment from you, Kelly, please.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the face the second it sort of turns around. I guess it's, you know, the close inspection of just flipping an image, and really that's all they've done. And I think when that technique is used, and it's used pretty regularly, I guess I personally want to go in there and see change or something that's not just a mirror, you know. And I think it's just the print, the black beveled sort of matting, I suppose that chalky sort of print to it just doesn't match the dynamic character, landscape and everything that we're meant to be looking at. So those things for me, two things would have brought me into silver distinction with you, but because they're not there, that's why I'm on 78.
Thanks, Kelly, for that. David, you're on 87, silver distinction, so could I have your comments, please?
I'm absolutely with Kate here with the, you know, the static infused God silhouette. You know, like it's just really crazy, the textures in there. I think as an aerial landscape photo, yes, we've seen the flipping before, but I don't think we've seen, you know, like water treated like this where they've just, you know, brought it down to the texture of the highlights of the water waves splashing. You know, I think it's very uniquely done.
Okay, that's great. Kate, I think we might go back to you for summing up, please.
The thing that's so amazing for me is that it's a landscape, but it's not a landscape. It's a face. It's drawing me in. I want to look at it. He's scary. Like I'm even giving him that it's a gender to it. So for me, that takes it above and beyond. We're meant to be judging landscape, but this is actually more than a landscape image. There's a story. So the photographer needs to be rewarded for that, and it deserves a silver distinction.
Okay, Kate, let's see how we go. Judges, could you rescore? It sits on 83 at the moment. Kate, your score of 88 stays there. Thank you, judges. Scores 85, silver distinction. Thanks, Kate. That's the most passionate discussion we've had this morning. Thank you. That's great. Right, let's breathe out. Can we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The print scores 77. Jonathan, a comment for you, for the photographer, please.
Yeah, look, the image has really lovely iridescent colours, and I think that the green and the blue go really beautifully together with the orange in between. There seems to be some texture in the landscape that I can't quite discern, and there are sort of white flecks all the way through, and I find them distracting, and I think maybe the print might benefit from having those whites just toned down a little.
Okay, thanks for that. Good comments. Could we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The print scores 79. A comment from Kelly, please. That'd be
Maybe
great.
consider a different crop. There's a lot of sort of negative space in that left-hand corner that I don't know that really adds to the balance or something. It maybe a couple of inches off the bottom. Just the size is probably a bit overwhelming, I think.
Okay. Thanks. Just quickly, Jonathan.
Yeah, I actually find that negative space at the bottom left is a nice relief for my eye, because there's so much happening in the image that it's nice for my eye to go to somewhere where it's a little bit less busy, actually.
Okay, thanks for that. We'll accept that score of 79 and have the next print, please. Thank you. Thank you, judges. The print scores 83, a silver award. Kelly, are you happy to make a comment on that for me? Thanks.
I wonder if there's a bit more room in this frame down the bottom, just to give it a little bit more of a height difference or something, because I just see a crazy dinosaur bird thing happening. Gaga, gaga. And I just think it needed a bit more room to show a bit more of the character of it, because it's quite interesting. Well done.
Thank you. There's other judges agreeing with you there as well. So great comments. Thanks. And could we have the next print, please? They don't. Hang on. Thank you, judges. Print scores 79. Kelly, you've scored this as 86. That's a great challenge. Hands straight up in the air. So I'll accept that, judges. Comments through the chair if you need to. Thanks.
Yes, yes, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
GM.
Kelly, you scored at 86. As I said, the average is 79. So I'll accept your challenge, Kelly.
Yep.
Let's go.
A couple of points. Brave. I think this is really interesting and probably challenging all us in ways that we haven't quite seen yet this morning, and I think that's cool. There's just so many layers upon layers, and this is a landscape, and what I see at the top is like, you know, just an artist that's just like streamed paint across this black, stark part of our landscape, which is, I think, so intriguing. The boldness of the colours and the fact that the photographer hasn't sort of wanted to desaturate away from this really intense kind of earth is well done for leaving it there. I'm not landing anywhere particularly, and that's okay with me. It's kind of, it feels weirdly cinematic in a cartoon kind of way, if that makes any sense to anybody. That's cool. Like, it's unusual, and I scored at 86 just for bravery and a little bit of innovation.
Thanks for that. Let's have a couple of other comments then. Niran, you scored this at 75, and I'll go to Kate after that, please.
I agree with everything you said, but what I like to add is actually when I look at the photograph, I mean, when we look at the image like this, and we need flow, and I can't find the flow. Its technique's beautiful, very nicely done, colors work very well, but if I want to put this one in the silver range, and there should be some certain flow in the image that actually it's this image lacking for me, but I'm happy to listen.
Thanks. Kate, you're on 78. Could we have a comment from you, please?
Agree, Kelly, I totally agree with you. But for me, there's two images in here. There's the top part and then there's the bottom part. And they're both independent. They both do really well from each other. But combined, I'm like, do I look at the bottom? Do I look at the top? Am I looking at the colours and there's confusion? That when I look at just that top bit, like, I'm like, wow, that would be a cracker image. So I'd really encourage the photographer to revisit that.
Okay, thanks. David, you've scored this at 82, so you're in the silver range. A comment from you,
I
please.
was actually a bit of a chicken scoring this. I probably I'll just speak to the negative first. The orange, I just struggled to see any textures. A lot of really flat areas of just continuous tone, which I found a little bit off-putting. But for me, the story that, you know, my eye flows beautifully around that. And for me, it's almost a before and after. It's a calm before the storm. It's this lava or apocalyptic explosion into despair at the top, and there's this little bit of hope at the bottom. And I found that really contrasts the story fantastic. And I thought it was wonderful.
Okay, thanks, David. Kelly, so could you sum up, please?
Yeah, cool that you can take on your own story of that. I dig that. That's pretty cool. But, you know, you're wanting to think about the flow, and it's right there. Like, you can actually see this movement in those lines that sort of flow all the way down to the bottom where that white sort of starts, and then it leads us back up again. And, you know, I'm interested to, if you're not quite sold on the crop, like, really, what would you do? Because if it was just all orange and then all black, we'd be looking for something else to sort of offset that. And I think the bottom of the frame does that beautifully. And I'm okay with these little pockets of green that sort of show some little bit of growth in a crazy orange, crazy futuristic world. I think it's just... like I said before, I think it's brave for showing us something quite different for an aerial in landscape.
Thanks, Kelly. Judges, can we rescore, please? I remind you that it currently sits on 79. Kelly, your score of 86 stays where it is. Thanks, Jonathan, for that score. It scores 82, a silver award. Thanks, judges. Some great discussion there. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. I don't know. Or you would, sorry, no, okay. Knows what's going on here, so we just have to do this manually. I didn't actually consider that. There's obviously no option. Would you like a badge? Okay, look, thank you for that. We just had to do that manually at the end. So the printer scored 78. Thanks, judges, for that score there. Jonathan, you scored it at 80. Could we have a comment, please, for the photographer, please?
This is a really lovely landscape, beautiful colours through the sea, going from that light green to turquoise and aqua. I would have liked to have seen a little bit wider crop on the left-hand side, and particularly the right-hand side. I want to see a little bit of sea around that curled tentacle of land, and if that's possible for the photographer to do, then I think that they should consider that.
Thanks for that. There's some other judges agreeing with you there. So thanks very much. Could we just have a grey screen at the moment, please? Thanks, judges. So that was the end of the aerial category in the landscape category that we're judging today, sponsored by Fuji. We'll move on to the final category in a minute, which is the single capture. I just need to set this up. We'll have some judges changes as well. So if you could just bear with me for a minute while we fix this up. Yeah. Nathan, could you be judge 5 for me, please? Niran, could you step down? Kevin, could you be judge 2 for me, please? Thank you. Oh no, we only got 2 in total, so. I didn't see Melanie earlier on. All right, thanks, judges. If you're ready to go, we're now going to judge the final landscape section. I'll just remind you that these are the 2019 AIPP Epson New South Wales ACT Professional Photography Awards in Room 2. We're judging the landscape category, sponsored by Fuji, a great supporter of the AIPP. We're in the final section, and this is landscape single capture. I'll just read you the category preamble for that section. This section is intended to reward technical and creative excellence in photography and presenting an authentic representation of a scene without the benefit of creative compositing techniques. Everyone happy with that? Right, could we have the first print, please? Thanks, judges. Printer scored 77. Nathan, happy for a comment from you. Thanks, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to comment on this one. As it stands, it's just a literal shot with, you know, the highlights are a bit bright, it feels a bit flat, but there is something really strong in this image, and I think the photographer could work on this a little bit more. Bring down bring down the mood, bring up the color saturation, and start telling this story of a broken earth and hope in nature and little things like that. There's a lot in it, but at the moment it's just too literal. So maybe keep working on this and just make it a bit more kind of ambiguous for the literality. Wow, it's too early in the morning for those words. Thanks.
Okay, we might not find that in the dictionary, but thanks, that's great. Okay, let's have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. The printer scored 78. 4 people in the 70s and 1 silver in there at 82. A comment from David, thanks.
Fantastically seen for a single capture. I think this is really, really well done. Probably the thing letting me down is just the scene itself is very busy. There's, you know, all the power lines, and it's you don't really know where to look. So fantastic vision, but I just think that that particular setting maybe wasn't perfect.
Okay, thanks for that. Could we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The print is scored on average 77. Print scoring range of 76 to 79 there. I'd like a comment for the benefit of the photographer, please. And Kevin, you could give us a quick comment here, please. Thank you. We're looking at a score of 77 here, Kevin.
It's a really lovely photograph, so congratulations to the photographer getting a good job done. I think the highlights could be controlled a little better, and maybe there's just a bit too much happening in that image. There's cropping in a bit tighter might help.
Okay, thanks for those comments. There's certainly other judges agreeing with you there. So we'll accept that score. Just turn me off for a minute. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, well, look, we'll accept that score of 77 and have the next print, please. Don't do it. Thank you, judges. The print scores 80, a silver award. Can I have a comment from David, please?
A couple of things that I think might just improve this. Personally, I found that fall off to the right-hand side, if you cropped it in a little bit, because my eye just sort of dropped off with that highlighting down the edge of the wave, whereas the focus is on that centre of the wave where it's cresting, and I think that was beautiful. And the texture in the sky I wasn't so much a fan of.
Quickly, Jonathan, thanks.
Yeah, I love the symmetry of the image, and I think that for a single capture, it's quite miraculous with a wave like that with such a smooth sea. I find that the colour difference between the wave itself and the surrounding water is unnatural, and the sky I think could do with some more colour saturation. I think it's too monochromatic.
Okay, thanks for that. Look, we'll accept that score. I just have a couple of judge changes to make. So, Kate, you've been here for a while. Could you step down, please? And Melanie, could you come and join us as judge number 3, please? Melanie Burt joining us as judge number 3. And David, could you step down as well? You've been here since the beginning. Paul, could you come and be judge 1, please? Thank you. So we just make these judge changes to keep our judges fresh, and there may be some conflict of interest in judges and prints that are coming up. So we'll have our 2 new judges in here now. Thanks. And can we have the next print, please? Kevin, I don't have your score here. That's terrific, okay. All right, thank you, judges. Printer has scored 81, a silver award. Thanks. Kevin, you can challenge this. You scored this at 87, 6 above the announced score. 278's in there and the others are in the silver range. So let's hear your comments on your challenge, please.
Okay, the print had initial impact sitting here. I just, Sorry.
Mic close to the mouth, please, Kevin.
Start again. I don't know is it not working? Hello? Talk a bit closer. Okay, so the print has amazing impact tomorrow when I turned around and saw it. I love the symmetry, I love the energy and flow in it. And when I got up closer to look further, I was rewarded again. There's great detail, it's a lovely print. And I thought this was the best example of landscape we've seen so far this morning. I really enjoyed this image and think it deserves to go a bit higher.
Okay, let's see how we go. Nathan, you've scored this 78. Let's hear your comments, please.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear the comments from everybody on this because I appreciated the symmetry and I wanted to be rewarded when I came up, and I feel like all of the really important details that could reward us for a long time were really kind of more silhouette-y than detail-y, and the saturation ended up just being this orangey muddy thing, and I feel like the photographer can keep working on this to bring out all those little details in that horizon line, which is the strength of the image. And arguably we could crop that bottom off and forget the symmetry so that we could really enjoy the story on that center line. At the moment I appreciate it more from back here for that beautiful symmetry, but I'd love to see a bit more detail in those little sharp bits in the center.
Melanie, could you make some comments, please? You're sitting on a score of 78.
Sure, I agree with Nathan. I'd love to see some more detail on that horizon line. The thing that didn't push me up to silver was just the loss of highlight on the right-hand side, and it just means that we've lost a lot of detail on that side, which unbalances it for me.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks, judges. Sorry, Paul, would you like to comment?
I probably would have gone a little bit higher if the image was giving a little bit more breathing room in the total range. I feel like there's a lot of extra room on the upper end that could bring a bit of light and breadth and expansion to what is quite an expansive sort of view, and there's a bit of oppression in terms of the hue and the murkiness of that mirroring that I don't think is necessary, and you could keep the detail and finesse of it, but give it a little bit more life and breathing room.
Thanks very much. Kevin, could you sum this up for us, please?
Well, I appreciate all those comments back, and I think that's probably very beneficial for the photographer to have had that feedback. So I'll accept what people have had to say and ask them to just maybe give it a little bit more of a score to encourage the photographer a job well done.
Thanks, Kevin. Look, it's currently sitting on 81, a silver award. Judges, could you rescore, please? Kevin, your score will stay at 87. Thanks, judges. Prints come up 1 point to 82, a silver award. Thanks. Good discussion too. Thank you very much. So could we have the next print, please? Mind that cable, please. It's really... Thanks, judges. Print scores 82, or silver award. Okay, so Kevin, you can challenge. I just would like people to challenge quickly, please. Please look at the screen as soon as we've announced the score. Thanks, that would be great. So Kevin, you've scored this at 87, 5 above the 82. There are two judges in the higher 90s. The others are in silver range. So let's see how we go. Tell us what you want. Sorry. It scores 82. Oh, I'm sorry if I said that. It scores 80. It scores 82. Kevin's challenged it at 87. There are two photographers in the silver. Sorry, one in the silver range, one in the silver distinction, and two in the 78, 79 range.
Okay, I'm looking at this again as it's a single capture image, and seeing how amazing that the photographer has managed to bring all of these elements into this image that I would have expected to have been done with post-production in many cases before. So I love the emotion that's being brought out through the rays coming down through the clouds. I think that gives that sense of loneliness and wondering where we are. Coldness, I can feel that through the planks in the timber leading out, and the leading lines are beautiful, and in the water itself. And I thought this was a really strong image. I'm surprised we haven't done better.
Okay, well, let's see. Melanie, you've scored this at 78. Could you make some comments, please?
I really wanted to push this image into an award range. The thing that was holding it back for me was there's just that bottom 2 centimetres of the image. You could have probably lost it and had a very powerful image. But there's also something happening in the water there. It's a little mismatched, I guess, to the rest of the water. I'm not sure what's happening. Otherwise, it's a great image.
Okay. Paul, you've scored this at 86.
Yeah, I went up there. Initially, I wasn't quite there, and when I sat with it and reflected on what this was offering, it gave me a number of narratives, and it gave me almost 4 images presented together. And first of all, I thought, there's way too much space, and what's the subject matter? And I thought, well, wait a minute, there's winter, there's a human element, there's a design element, there's a very visceral, elemental quality in terms of, I thought, it's too much water. I was like, wait a minute, that really speaks to the power of the wind and the rawness of the cold, and it really adds to that I quite enjoy that simple grounding at the bottom. I think maybe it might be more ethereal without that, but at the same time, I thought it was quite clever and kind of brave to include such a range of elements in a wider print that you could potentially get lost in, but if you take time, you can segmentally enjoy different elements all the way through. So I'm up there.
Thanks, Paul. Nathan, you're sitting on 82. A comment, please.
Yeah, look, I'm on 82, and the thing that would jump me to where you guys are is if you could address this little piece in my head, which is I'm seeing a peaceful scene and a violent scene together in the one frame, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Initially, that kept me at 82. So those 2 centimetres at the bottom, that kind of took me away from peaceful a little bit, and all of the cloud just made it a bit more, I'm on an edge. There's like a violent edge about it. Then right in the centre is this beautiful, serene moment with those sunbeams going through. So I felt a bit of this uncomfortable tension about that. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just raising the awareness of that. And if you could talk to that a bit, then I'm really listening.
Okay. Jonathan, yes, let's take your comment and then we'll go back to Kevin.
I'm really excited about this image. I certainly was from far away. I can see the tension between the drama in the image and the peacefulness. I really wanted to take it higher. I'm just sitting below Silver Award. Now, the things that held me back were that I'd like to either see none of the sandy shore at the bottom or more of it. I just think that little bit that's there doesn't really work for me. And I feel that there's actually, I'm seeing more of the sky than I want to. So I don't know if it's possible to obviously it's too late for the photographer to angle their camera downwards, but if there's more of the lower section, then I think that it could benefit from a crop like that. I also feel one of the other things that did hold me back from going higher was that I feel that the timber in that pier seems to be a little bit over sharpened, and that held me back from going higher as well. But it's a wonderful image, and I think it's got a tremendous amount of potential.
Thanks, Jonathan. When Kevin comes back, he can have his right of reply. Thanks. The image is currently sitting on 82.
I probably agree that just looking at them, I hadn't noticed it before, that the timber planks do appear to be somewhat over sharpened. That may be something for photographers to look for. The other comments, I like the border of sand at the bottom. I think that it just adds a bit of framing to the overall composition. To take out any of the sky, I think we'd lose information as well, and also make the crop just too panoramic. I don't see violence in this at all. I just see something, the emotion for me is just one of being cold and lonely and wintertime. So if there's any conflict in those emotions, then I think it only adds to the story.
Thanks, Kevin. Judges, could you rescore, please? Currently sits on 82. Thank you for the discussion, judges. Comes up to 83, a solid silver award there. Thank you. We'll accept that score. Jonathan, we'll just have another judge change. Jonathan, could you step down? Thanks for the time you've done this morning. John, can you, we'll bring in John Wiseman now as judge number 4. Thank you. Could we have the next print, please? Thanks, judges. Print scores 79. Print scoring range there 78 to 83. Thanks for that. I'd like a comment on that from Melanie. She looks enthusiastic, ready to go.
I enjoyed the light play between the lake and the pond and the sky. I just think there was perhaps some post-production was worth revisiting in the colour from the left to the right. They're very, very different. I'm not sure what's happening on the left.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks, judges. Could we have the next print, please? Thanks for your scores, judges. The print scores 77, scoring range 75 to 78 there. Thank you. John, do you feel, could you make a comment, please, for the photographer there?
It's a terrific image, and I think it's strong in the area it's at. I like the lines, I like the colours, and I think the photographer's done a terrific job.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 82, a silver award. So we've got one challenge here from Nathan. Nathan scored it at 88. So that's 6 above the announced score. Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about this. What a beautiful palette. What a beautiful, very, very deliberate choice of tones and really rich, organic kind of feel. Like I'm sure you've got a few choices in here for the photographer, and this really works well. The contrast is perfect to lead us through this line, and it is very organic. The choice of angle as well. I know that this can be an aerial and it can have a certain shape, and what we're seeing here is a really wise angle, I think, for the photographer. I think this shows a high level of skill and perception to step into the right place for this. But what I'm enjoying most of all is everything that's left in this image, that outside of the feature this pathway to this light patch of wonderment is scars of the past at the top. So we can see these trails that maybe long gone, maybe hundreds, thousands of years ago. There were other journeys and other stories that have dried up, and this one is still current. And so I think everything in this frame is important and valuable, and I really can't break it. And I'm on 88, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, people.
Thanks, Nathan. Paul, to answer your question, the scoring ranges are 81, 78, 82, 83, and Nathan on 88. So it's currently sitting on 82. I'd like comments from another judge. Melanie, you're on 82. Would you...
I also enjoyed the colour palette and the way that we organically move towards that piece of water. I do enjoy the angle as well. It would have been so easy to just go straight from above. So I do think it's brave. I would have enjoyed a little bit more space at the bottom just to let it breathe a little. But I think it's a solid silver.
Thank you for that. Paul, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I sort of feel the opposite, actually. It's actually usually harder to shoot from above than it is. This is an easier angle, technically, usually, because it's just straight there, present for you. And I feel, I have a mixed feeling about the composition and the balance in terms of such a heavy weighting down the bottom right, and this space above it that doesn't quite counterbalance through the image. And I feel like I enjoy this sort of documentary style element of those narratives in the corner, but I feel like there's more room to create a more interpretive conversation and a more symbolic conversation at a slightly different angle, in terms of taking a little bit less literal out and leaving more of the figurative. And when you're shooting like this, you can probably take 10 frames in about 1 minute to explore that. And they've chosen this one deliberately, and I do feel like there's a deliberateness there that Nathan is right on top of. But he'll need to keep lifting me up there. You're heading in a good direction, my friend.
John, a comment from you would be great. Thanks, before Nathan sums up.
Initially, I thought it needed cropping at the top, but changed my mind on that when I got up closer. There's certainly a few more points from me coming. I think it's a great image.
Good to hear. Nathan, could you make some final comments on this for us, please?
Yeah, look, I think that you've actually all nailed the strength of this image, that yes, it is harder to shoot from that different angle, but the choice was deliberate to go this way, and I think it is ambiguous enough. And partly that tight crop helps with that we're not just resting in there, that there is potentially a future. There is an unknown future. I don't want to draw in crazy metaphysical stories into something that is, in essence, very simple and highly organic, and a really peaceful journey down this river with a soft destination that we can rest in. And I think that we just need to really consider what's the most honourable score for this, and I'm really comfortable on my 88.
Thanks for those words, Nathan. Judges, could you rescore? The print currently sits on 82. Thank you, judges. The print scores by majority 84. A silver award. Just one of those cases where it did average 85, but my majority 84. So thanks for your comments on that. That was a good discussion. Could we have the next print, please? And a great piece of work as well. Thanks, Paul. Thank you, judges. We've got a print score of 79 here for this particular image. And I'd like a comment from Paul. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the great reward of this image is actually when you go up close. The delicacy and finesse and the timing, the choice of shutter speed, the sense of flow, the wispiness, the slight translucence of the water at the bottom of the frame that lets you just merge into it and come out a little bit more. And this gentle sealing that nudges you back down into the frame where you otherwise would have been washed out with the darker tones in the top. There's more to it than meets the eye. Is kind of what I felt when I got up close.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. I think the photographer will benefit from those comments. Close to a silver award, obviously. Let's have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print scored 79 by majority. Thanks for that judging there. It did average 80, but 3 scores in the 70, 79 by majority. I'd like a comment from Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy this sense of emergence, and it's given a bit of breathing room and counterbalance for negative space. I think you could improve it a little bit in its terms of the handling of the tonality, a little bit more breathing room in the blacks and detail, and a little more gentle handling of the highlights to the left would just balance it out a bit more elegantly.
Thanks, Paul. No, I understand. Let's have the next print, please. Just while the judges are working through their scores here for this particular print, I'd just like to remind you we're in the landscape category. New South Wales, AIPP, Epson, New South Wales and ACT Professional Photography Awards. We're judging the third section of the landscape category, which is the landscape single capture. And this category is sponsored by Fuji. We've got our scores here for this image that we're currently presented with, and the printer scored 78. Melanie, a comment from you would be great. Thank you.
I think the image is beautifully seen. It would have been lovely to see the top of the tree and just a little bit more foreground, just to give it its presence. I like the 16:9 or the smaller crop. I like that pano crop, but I think just a little bit more because it's so beautiful and majestic, that tree. We just needed to see all of it.
Okay, plenty of people amongst the judges and agreeing with you there, so that's great. Thanks. We'll just go to a blank screen at the moment. We've got a technical problem. Something's fallen off. Just while we've got a break, could I just ask the audience to try and keep the noise down a bit? It is a bit difficult to hear. I'll just fess up to my disability. I have hearing aids, which I've only had for 6 months, and they're hard to get used to. So the background noise is really hard for me. Okay, and I think it's hard for everyone else. But that'd be great. Thank you. Feel free to chat now while we're waiting, though. So we've got the machinery back in order. Are you right out the back to go? Thanks, judges. So, print handlers, if we can have the next print, please, that would be good. It is single capture, yes. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 76. Thanks, Nathan. You've scored this at 82, 6 above the announced score. You can. I'll accept your challenge on this. Thank you.
Yeah, chances are I'm completely on my own, and I would love to discuss this to see whether I missed something or whether we all did, because either this is just a really highly processed, ambiguous landscape, or this is a really intriguing kind of deliberate effect, and I'm not quite sure, but we stared at it for a long time, and I think we were interpreting a lot more than potential snow on a rock face or something like that. So I would love to have a chat. Personally, I saw constellations and journey and just this one little trail running down there, and I also saw a real high level of grain and detail and grit and paint splatter on a page, and I saw all of these elements. And on my own, I'm not sure if I can conclude whether it works or not, so I'd love to have a conversation with you guys.
John, I'd like you to make some comments. You scored this at 77, which is
I was a little
close to the average.
confused. I thought it was snow and rocks, and so that's why I'm in that category. It's a strong shot, but I'm really confused.
Okay, that's honest. Thank you. Melanie, a comment from you then?
I think it's great that we're all challenged by the image. Again, I agree with Nathan. I saw the Milky Way. I saw cotton wool balls dancing across a field. I see so many things in here, but I think that I see so many things is making it too confusing for me. That's all.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Nathan, can we come back to you, please, for a right of reply?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Well, I don't think I need to add too much. It feels a bit like a traditional process kind of image, but it's very much worth talking about because it's so confusing. So, yeah, thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks, guys. Look, it sits on 76. Let's rescore that, please. Nathan, your score of 82 stays as it is. Thanks for the comments. It now sits on 78. Thank you very much. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. Print scored 79. Print scoring range of 77 to 82 there. Melanie, thanks for that. Something to help this photographer maybe get it up to a silver?
I think it's a well-seen view, and I like the blue colour palette. I think that perhaps the black foreground is just far too black, and it would have been nice to just see some softness in there to match the rest of the landscape.
Okay. Other judges nodding in agreement there, so I think that's a great comment. Let's have the next print, please. While the judges are looking at this, can I just remind you that the 2 award nights for the New South Wales and ACT are advertised on the AIPP events site. You can make bookings there for the Sydney Award night on Monday night and the ACT Award night on Tuesday night. I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, judges. We've got a print score here of 83, a solid silver award. Paul, a comment from you on this print would be great. You scored this at 82.
Yeah, obviously beautiful design and a wonderful complementary muted tonality all the way through, and
Guys, just
quite the
can we
cheap
keep the
seats,
noise
quite
down
the
in
cheap
back,
seats,
please?
and also beautiful amount of detail into the human element. But what brought into the award range for me was actually this strip of green down the middle. Actually, it's 2 buildings separated, and that strip of green doesn't give you horizon or a sense of anything. It actually fills the entire frame. So that means these 2 buildings are against a mountain range that is just lush and green and pure, and yet the vicinity of them is just so immediate. So it's quite a commentary around man's position relative to nature at the same time. Very clever.
Thanks, judges. Thanks, Paul, for those comments. That's great. Okay, let's have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print scores 81, a silver award. Kevin, a comment from you would be great. Thanks very much.
A lovely image with a lovely story, a lot in here to really enjoy. I think the photographer could improve this image by the dodging and burning down that angle of the mountainside. Was what was disturbing me mostly. There's a little bit of noise creeping into the printing there as well.
Okay, thanks for that. Great comments. So that's good. We'll accept that 81 silver award and have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. The print scores 78. Paul, a comment from you would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I moved into the award range, I think, purely for the emotive qualities I feel that this brought through. I feel like a sense if you're a sailor and this is a heavy squall coming, but there's just a hint of hope of a breakthrough on the top left that's very gently and beautifully presented in a way. It's quite a courageous image, I think, in a lot of ways, because it's so simple and there's not a lot of complexity in terms of the structure and subject matter, and very delicately handled with that total range and the highlights in particular. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Become judge number 5. Good thing all. We're back for judging now, and could we have the next print, please? Thank you. Just a reminder that we're in judging room 2, judging the landscape category, sponsored by Fuji, and we're in the single capture section of the landscape category here. Thanks for the scores, judges. The printers scored 83, solid silver award. I have a comment, please, from Melanie. Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate the photographer. It's a really powerful composition and a beautiful lick of colour in there. Well, it's just very well seen.
Thank you very much for that. We had print scoring range of 77 to 87 on that particular print. Thanks, judges. We'll have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. The printers scored 76. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thanks to the photographer. I feel like it's worth considering perhaps a more simple composition. It's maybe a bit overly complex. It's trying to include too many elements that don't necessarily tie together. Like if you came back with a longer lens and shot narrow down the middle, for instance, you would simplify it and give it a bit of depth. And also from a technical point of view, have a look at your aperture and so on. It falls apart a bit on the right in terms of the resolve, and yet it's still present in the middle and in the left. So it's just understanding how your lenses work in that regard.
Thanks, Paul. So can I just remind you that print score of 76 falls within our professional standard, not award standard, but still a professional standard of photography. So could we have the next print, please? Thanks for those scores, judges. The printer scored 79. Print scoring range of 77 to 82 there. John, would you like to comment on that, please? You scored this at 81.
Congratulations to the photographer. It's the colours really popped out at me. I really enjoyed the image. I just found a little bit too much on the right for me, and I wasn't sure where I could crop it from the left, but a very, very good image and beautiful colours.
Okay, great comments there. Thanks for that. I'd like another judge change. Kevin, you've been on for quite a while, so David Stowe, could you come and be judge too? Thank you, Kevin, for your time. Just mind the cords on the way in and out, guys. Thank you, judges. And could we have the next print, please? Thanks, judges. We've got a print score here of 78 for this image. Scoring range 75 to 81. David, comment from you, please. You've scored this at 78, the average.
Yeah, solid professional practice. Beautiful, soft, delicate image. I might suggest just lightening the foreground a bit so that the whole image has a lighter feel. It just feels a bit dark, a bit heavy, and maybe even taking a little bit off the bottom.
Okay, some other people nodding in agreement there. And a comment from Paul that maybe it could do with a square crop as well. So there's a couple of options there. Thanks for that. Let's have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 76. I'll accept that score. And David, not David, I'm sorry, Paul, you would like to make a comment on this? I'm happy with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's some lovely atmospheric qualities at the bottom of the frame, and I feel like they're having to compete with the bold highlight of the sun, which is in a bit of an awkward, quite intense position in the top. And I would also perhaps consider lightening the image a little bit and giving it more breath, and maybe using a softer matte paper to bring a gentler softness and flow through that those atmospheric elements on the bottom.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, let's have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print scores 77. Don't be scared. You can look at me and indicate that you want to make some comments. Kelly, a comment from you would be great. Thanks.
The top half of the image probably isn't adding to the overall frame. I think there's some beautiful things happening in the foreground, and I think the photographer's done well to sort of capture that sort of snow particularly well. But yeah, crop that off maybe.
Okay. You can always have a look. It's easy to do on the screen. Thanks for that. Let's have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. The print scored 77. I'll accept that score. Thank you. And Paul, a comment from you, please.
Yeah, beautiful print resolve here. Very enjoyable. I feel like this image could have benefited from a little bit more room on the right. It's a bit cut off around the tree, and with the highlights, they've been a bit suppressed down, and I feel like if they would just allow a little bit more breathing room, you'd just lift more beautifully into the sky. Wonderful complementary colours.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, let's have the next print, please. Thanks, judges. Print scores 80, a silver award. print scoring range there from 78 to 83. Thanks. Could we have a... Yeah, I can see you there. Could we have a comment from Kelly, please?
Can't miss me. Sorry, I just wanted to add, because I was on 78 and I would have scored it a lot higher, I think the photographer has done such brilliant work in the middle, and the finessing and the delicacy that they've done in that middle of the frame is done really, really well, and it's just let down with that really heavy vignetting sort of burning in, especially off to the left. Carry that through across there, and I would have scored it a lot higher, so take a look at that.
Okay, thanks. Quickly, Paul.
If the photographer has another frame where that central subject isn't competing so heavily with the background, if you were lower and it had a higher, more presence, I think it would add more drama and clarity about what the subject actually is.
Both those comments have got the agreement of lots of other judges, so thanks for those. That's terrific. Can we have the next print, please? Next print, please. Thanks, judges. The print is scored by majority 85, a silver distinction. Thank you. Good looking image there. It averaged 84. 3 judges had it over 85, and we've got a majority 85. So terrific. A comment from Kelly would be great. Thanks.
I'm on 88 for this image. It's just delicious colours. Oh my gosh. So they're so tactile and touch-worthy and tangible or something, but crop that bottom in a little bit more, and in my opinion that's up there in a gold, so just consider a slightly different crop. Well done. It's
Thanks,
really
Kelly.
lovely.
That's encouraging news for the photographer. Could we have the next print, please? Thanks, judges. Print scores 74. I'd like a comment from Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much potential swimming around this image for where it could go, but I feel like it's trying to include 3 different subjects that don't quite tie together. Is it a word? Are they framing something in particular? Is it about the sky? And none of them quite resolve individually or together in a way that could work. But I'd be curious, if you shape the position of the bodies to tie in with some of the other shapes, or really push the silhouette aspect rather than confusing us by having some detail and not quite enough to make it a graphic. It's wonderful exploration. I'm curious to see the other frames.
Okay, thanks, Paul. We'll just leave that print. Just leave that print there for a minute. We're just going to have a panel chair change. Carol Gibbons is going to come and spend some time here. Thanks.
Next print, please. So the print has scored 78. Can we get a comment from Kelly? Oh, sorry.
Get a chance to come up close.
Thanks,
Structurally, there's some really intriguing elements. The foreground actually almost feels like rock, and the sky in the background almost feels like a wave or a tsunami sort of building up behind. But what I feel like is all this sort of intriguing elements are a little bit spread apart. They're not quite tied together. The dots aren't held together in terms of the composition and the narrative. But thank you for presenting it to us.
Thanks, Paul. Next print, please. So the print has scored 78. Could we get a comment from Paul? Paul's on 82. Okay, we'll get a comment from Melanie, who's on 77.
I think this is a well-seen graphic image of this building. I think what's letting it down a little is it needs lifting out of that print a bit. The sky's too dark and and the greenery at the front.
Thanks, Melanie. Next print, please. So the print has scored an average of 71. We've got a couple of challenges there. So Melanie's on 76, and so we've got, yeah. Do you want to challenge Melanie? Yeah. Yeah. You can comment then, yeah.
Sure, I would encourage the photographer just to revisit the darker areas in the shadows and see if there's something that they can bring out. It's well seen. It just might need exploring a little.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you. Next print, please. Okay, this print has scored 81. Can we get a comment from Kelly?
Do you want to go? Yeah, I scored at 83. I would have loved to have scored it a bit higher, actually. I just think that subtle gradation sort of through there probably could have maybe not been there. I think give us something a bit more high key because there's something very tranquil and peaceful about it, but that sort of bottom end, it's a bit too dark, and I think with that really stark white matte, it's just not quite balancing out, but I think there's something a bit more in there that could probably score a bit higher if you just have another look at those things.
Thanks, Kelly. Next print, please. This print has scored 74. Can we get a comment from David?
Love the design of this image. I think the thing that was letting it down the most for me was just the critical sharpness. It just seems a bit soft throughout.
Great. Thanks, David. Next print, please. And this print has scored 76. Can we get a comment from John?
Yes, the image itself and the composition is very good. The darkness in the bottom, if the detail was there, this would certainly go up into award status as far as I'm concerned, but it's just the light on the right was, I was fine with that, but just too dark in that bottom right and the left-hand side, but the rolling hills always make a beautiful image.
Okay. Thanks, Melanie.
Just quickly, I think the photographer may have tried to bring out, it looks like a little river in the middle there, and perhaps if they just revisited the post-production of that without, I can just see whiteness there, and I think they could probably have another look at that.
Thanks, Melanie. And that was the last print of the category. Thanks to all the judges. Great judging, everyone.